Hello and welcome to Sharing the Light. Thank you for joining us today. Our Sharing the Light episode today will be hosted by the Reverend Dr. Durrell Watkins, who is the senior minister of the Sunshine Cathedral, and his guests today will be the Reverend Cindy Lippert and Candace Gee. Their focus for discussion on this episode is saved from what? So stay tuned as we now join them in their discussion of saved from what. So here's the story. We all, because you grew up in the Midwest, kind of still part of that Bible Belty situation, and you were from you had Southern beginnings, which is totally 100% Bible Belt, Bible prison sort of thing, and I am like a 17th generation hillbilly, and so
am I.
so we grew up in a culture that told us we were innately depraved. This isn't a judgment. This is the story. This is the story I inherited.
This is just the story.
There, in fact, they might not. The people who told me the story might not appreciate the terms I used to describe it, but they are totally proud of the story. I mean, it's their story,
right?
And it's a story that caused me so much grief and heartache as a child. But that we are innately depraved, and to be saved from our own depravity, we have to believe a thing. And the thing we have to believe in is that there was an angry God, or maybe not even so angry, but just inflexible God apart from us, who was so devastated by our sinful state, even though this same God created us and made all the rules. So, but in any case, God made us, and apparently made us flawed, but is holding us responsible for our flaws, and there's no reconciliation. Like, we can't just work it out. We can't be on probation or some kind of rehabilitation program. It's a zero-sum game. We're in or we out, and out means really hosed. I mean, tortured forever. Not just spanked a little bit, but forever and ever and ever tortured, and never let into the good club. But because God is good, God decided that God's own self/child could be tortured to death, and that would pay for our evilness. But it only works if we believe it.
Right.
And now we got it. So it's our job to save everyone else from their depravity by making them believe that God loved us enough to torture God's self. And that only works if we believe. Anyway, it gets a little confusing, but right? I mean, if you parse it, it's kind of whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that the three of us, at some point in our lives, rejected that story, or at least that understanding of the story, because we've all said there's not a spot where God is not. If God is omnipresent, if God is omnipresent, if God is love, if God is even decency, but if God is love, and God is omnipresence, where could you go? Even the psalmist said, "Where could I go from your presence? Where could I flee from your spirit? If I go into the depths of the earth," which is where they imagine death, where death happened. Yeah. If I go to the depths of the earth, you are there. You can't get away from God. So we believe in omnipresence. So we probably don't believe you can ever get away from God. That God is relentless. That there's not a spot where God is not. We can't get away from God. And if God is omnipresent, then God probably was never apart from us, making judgments on us. And all of that theology came at a time when the world was flat and slavery was considered to be acceptable and women were, a part of, only partially human and blah, blah, blah. But since theories of evolution, we don't believe necessarily that we started out perfect for about 10 minutes and fell. We believe we're constantly evolving into betterness and betterness and betterness. So that old story didn't work for us anymore. And yet we've inherited these traditions and to some degree remained a part of these traditions. So the question is, saved from what? Do we believe in salvation? And if so, what does that word mean for us? What are we saved from? If we're not saved from an angry God, and if we're not saved from the afterlife torture chamber, and if we're not saved from our own depravity, because there's not a spot where God is not, so we have to be part of God, so we can't be what God isn't, what are we saved from? Saved from what?
Our own negative thinking, of course.
And there you have the answer. Thank you for joining. No, seriously. I mean, it is that, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Saved from our own fear.
Yeah.
Saved from the idea that we're innately depraved.
Yeah.
That's a good salvation.
Yes.
Save me from that, please.
Yeah.
Whatever your glass half empty is, that's what you want to be saved from.
Now, in all compassion, because we were our various versions of whatever, in Catholic and Baptist and Church of Christ and Mormon and Jehovah's Witness and Seventh Day Adventist and whatever we were. Good people, they bought that. They thought they were doing good.
Yes.
And they were devout. When they said grace, they meant it. Thank you for this food that I bought and worked and prepared, and the dishes that I'm cleaning up. But thank you, God, for this food. They meant it. They meant every word of it.
Yeah.
And so someone watching this is going to be a little offended. They're like, wait a minute, this is precious to me. And they're not going to hear, but it's also tortured other people.
Right.
And we want to be able to offer people a way out of it that want out of it. And at the same time, you get to have what you get to have. I mean, say your grace and be sinful and have people die for you. And you get to have all of that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But let us also offer an alternative for those who need an alternative. How can we make that case gently, powerfully enough for the people looking for it without being unkind to the people who just think we're trampling all over their precious jewels?
Well, for me, having been raised in fundamentalist Baptist environment, bless those that works for them.
Yes.
Because I think as many different varieties as there are of us on the planet, that's how many different ways we see God. And different personalities need different kinds of God, we'll say. For me, I was baptized twice. I didn't get it the first time. And I was in a very heartfelt service, and I felt like, I don't think I was really saved. And so I went forward, and of course, at our church, if you go forward, you get baptized. We baptize morning and night and Wednesday night and the whole bit. So when we went home that night,
that immersion mattered.
Oh, yes.
But the bath you took earlier that day was not.
That was not the same thing.
Okay.
So I went
this
home.
This water does it, and this water doesn't.
This is holy water. So
right.
I felt like this is what I needed to do, and I was 15 years old. See, I was 8 the first time, and my mother prayed with me, and we went to the pastor, and he said, do you want to get baptized? And I looked at my mother, and she said, and so I said, I didn't know.
Sure.
So at 15, I was not sure. So on the way home that night, dripping hair, my mother said, I thought we had this satisfied. This was an affront to her that she had it all worked out. Her child was going to go to heaven. Now I have messed her up and publicly humiliated her because, see, it was about my mom.
Right.
And I hadn't even thought about that. And I said, I just wasn't sure. I just wanted to be sure. She said, I hope you're satisfied.
You were just getting extra coverage on your insurance policy.
I was getting extra coverage.
On the fire insurance policy.
You
weren't trying to hurt her feelings.
I was doubling down.
Yeah, you were trying
That's
to hurt
all
her
I was
feelings.
doing. So years later, and I ended up, because I ended up as an adult having adult issues, that I couldn't get religion and my life to come together. There was no Joel Osteen back then, and I wasn't aware of New Thought. So again, I honor those that traditional Christianity works for. It didn't work for me. So what is left for those?
And that fundamental
the rest
misunderstanding
of us?
is one tradition, by the way.
Yes.
We know that of the original 5 schools of Christianity, or of the Christian Jesus movements, Christ cults, those early, 3 of those 5 were liberal movements.
There you go.
The more angry or less flexible schools in our days became popular. And in our days, I mean, like the last 15, 16, 1700 years. Sure. But there's never been one Christian tradition. There's never been one Christian tradition. So let us say that we are actually, those of us who are progressive and positive thinking, blah blah blah. We are actually part of an ancient tradition also.
Absolutely.
We are faithful and whatever.
Absolutely.
But anyway, go ahead.
So when
But that particular brand of tradition, not so much, didn't work for you.
There you go. So for 20 years, I didn't want to talk about God. Don't threaten me with the Bible. It just didn't work for me.
And it was a club.
It was a club, and it didn't work for me. Okay. So what happened is childhood friends passed away early, in their young 40s. And I didn't know where they went. It was the strangest feeling. It's like, why is this occurring to me now? I wanted to know where they went. And I can honestly tell you, after ministry school, running churches, all of that, all these years later, I still don't know where they went, and I'm at peace about that. It's okay.
Because if God is omnipresent, whatever God is, God can't have let them go.
Correct.
So I don't know what their experience is either. I don't know. I don't know what's going on in the parking lot right now.
No.
I mean, I don't try to guess what's in the next life. But if God is omnipresent, if it's in God that we live and move and have our being, then I assume that lasts throughout eternity. And if God is eternal, and if we hope to experience eternity, here's the good news about eternity. Not only does eternity not end, it doesn't begin. Anything that has a beginning has a shelf life.
There you go.
Anything that has a beginning date has a sell-by date. And so if we're going to live forever, that means we have lived forever, and there's no breaking that cycle. So, say words.
Speak.
No, I agree with that. I think that, I mean, it's such a foreign for me to even think. I have to put my mind around that. Safe from what? There's nothing to ever be safe from, I think, than our own thoughts. And I think that, but our thoughts are so powerful. They can do so much damage or so much blessing. So they go around and curse humanity because we're just looking at the glass half empty. I'm using my words instead of, and thinking that those are just great places to go to or a horrible place to go to reside in eternity. And it's really hot too, and you can't put on suntan lotion.
Right.
And there's no chapstick.
And no, like
But you don't die.
And I love that old adage, religion is for people who are afraid of going to hell, spirituality is for people who've already been there.
I love it.
So
That's good.
I think some of us have made a journey from fear-based religion to liberating spirituality.
Yes.
And I also love what Winston Churchill said, if you're going through hell, keep going.
Right, don't stop.
Because
Exactly.
heaven and hell are states of consciousness.
Yeah.
And if we're in a hellish state of consciousness, keep going, keep working, keep praying, keep doing the steps until you get to that heavenly state of consciousness. And we don't have to wait till we die for that. That can be right here and right now. And then it lasts forever. It's not about getting there later, in my view. So, saved from what? Saved from fear of needing to be saved.
Yeah.
So,
There you go.
and we say that in all love, and we'll
Yes,
probably get hate mail, and we'll receive that with love too. So thank you again for joining us for this episode of Sharing the Light.
Thank you for joining us for another great episode of Sharing the Light. Tell your friends about this online ministry, and when you're in Southeast Florida, make sure you worship with us on a Sunday at the 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. service. And now for a final word from our senior pastor, the Reverend Dr. Durrell Watkins.
Email me at durrell@sunshinecathedral.net if you have a religious question or if you'd like to subscribe to our daily devotional magazine, Spirit and Truth. We'll send it anywhere in the United States for an annual donation of any size. You can also email us prayer requests, or you can make donations on our website, www.sunshinecathedral.org. You'll also want to check out our great performing arts series, religious education classes, conferences, and other exciting activities. For now, we wish you many blessings on your spiritual journey.